Hi, I'm some guy outside, and this is a pile of shit. Some guy outside, and this is my 95 Jeep Cherokee, and it's got a bad water pump. And how do I know it's got a bad water pump? Well,
how fucked up is fucked up? That's pretty fucked up.
well, simple story. It sounds like it's gonna die. So as you can see, I've already loosened and removed part of my serpentine belt, and I did that as step 0 of the water pump replacement, and that's just the identification of which one of the bearings on here, or the pulley wheels on here is going bad. But so I'm just going along, trying the power steering, everything's, it might not be the best, but not bad. But then we get down here. This is your water pump directly below your thermostat housing, and I can do this to mine back and forth over a good 1/4 inch, and it doesn't want to rotate now. So next step is going to be actually to reinstall the serpentine belt just loosely onto everything, because that's going to help us with 4 13mm bolts on it. There's also 4 13mm bolts on our belt fan. Removing these two is going to be a lot easier with the serpentine belt. So I have a early model style tightener, which is this gargantuan thing that's attached to the power steering. The late models, you have 2 bolts, the idler pulley, which will be over on your driver's side instead of the passenger side of your engine. There's like 5 bolts on this power steering area. You don't have to take any of them off, but you have to break them all loose so that you can loosen the bolt that is below the power steering, which is a crank or a shaft bolt that runs against the engine. So if your engine is front to back, it runs side to side. Serpentine belt just reinstalled. I haven't actually tightened this up, but just having it in place will put enough pressure on the fan and the water pump to allow us to get those 8 bolts that we need to get off. But that will be step 1 of our 7-step plan to infinite profit. Step 1 is going to be removing the accessories. So just to get access to what we need to get access to. Electric fan, there are 2 10mm bolts up here. They slide into the bottom with just 2 plastic, not really shims, but just slides. There's a word, I'm sure. But that, and then the electrical connection up here, that should allow us to just slide the electric fan out. This is 4 13mm bolts attached to the pulley face. We just need to remove the fan off of it. Most Jeeps don't come with a fan cover. They should, but yeah, it's a Jeep. So if you have a traditional air box, taking that out will give you some extra space to work. This would be a good time to do thermostat housing, a coolant flush, fluid, so we're going to need a catch can. But so first thing first, I'm going to get the electric fan out of here, and then that'll give us more space for getting the actual fan and the water pump out. In front of the power steering reservoir, you should find the electrical connection for the fan. Mine's just kind of clipped in place, but disconnect that. That is the only connection on my electrical fan, other than the 10mm bolts located here and here. So those 2 out, this should slide right out for us. This is just the hose from the radiator cap to the overflow on the passenger side. So I'm just going to snip the zip tie that I had holding it shut. Might lose some coolant out of here, but just getting it out of the way, gonna make life a little. These are the fin attachments that both the fan shroud and the electric fan sit in on the bottom of the radiator. So this is why we're keeping the belt on for right now. It's going to help us. We've got 4 13mm bolts. If you have long neck wrenches, those are going to be the easiest. I'm actually probably going to have to go pick up a second long neck, because the fan 13 does not have enough space for a ratchet. So you're going to need two 13mm wrenches, and a long neck would probably be helpful. So a neat trick, if you don't have any long neck wrenches, is obviously, so this is a 14 and this is my 13, and to give myself some leverage, so with the serpentine belt tightened up, not all the way, just tightened up enough that it offers more resistance, I was able to shimmy back and forth, and the hard part is just getting it broken loose. So feel free to tighten a bolt back up once it's been broken loose to get that last bolt that hasn't been broken loose at all broken loose. Once that one is broken loose, getting all of the ones that had been snugged back down loosened, much easier. So now let's work on the fan bolts. So for the fan, your 4 bolts, which are also 13mm, are just behind the fan, not on the face of it, but just behind it where the fan attaches to the pulley. We don't need to remove the pulley, we're just removing the fan from the pulley so that there's access enough to remove the water pump. Now would be a good time to consider replacing your fan clutch. I don't actually know how to tell if this is a bad fan clutch at the moment, but quite a pain to get here, so if yours is old as hell, you know, might well be worth replacing it. Alright, so I decided, given it's only a $50 part, I'm going to go ahead and replace this fan clutch, because it's pretty darn old, and since we're here, might as well. Important to note, the back side so you got 4 half-inch bolts. Should just come right out. That these bolts that were from the old fan clutch are too long. Trusty old internet says 18 to 20 foot-pounds for the fan blade bolts. How to keep your nuts and bolts organized. So, water pump there, our fan was right here. If you have the early model, your idler pulley is going to be right here. On the later models, your idler pulley is going to be about where my finger is. So this is actually going to be in the way of our upper hose that comes off of the water pump. So gonna have to take this off, I think, which isn't too much. That's maybe a ½ inch. So let me grab a half inch and a drive, and we'll take our idler off too. I'll probably just jam some jelly in it and put this one back on. So we won't be able to access 2 of these bolts without getting the pulley face off. So I got this on, and I'll show you the modifications I did. I had to cut notches in to get this to actually stay on. So also had to cut the actual bolt short. So yeah, once it was under the tension of the pulley puller, hitting it with a piece of wood, just trying to shock that rust loose, and it worked. I had to cut, you can see, cut that into each one of these teeths because it kept slipping off. Just use the angle grinder. Also, I had to cut the actual face off of the bolt, which makes this a little more challenging, but it wouldn't fit between the space between the pulley and the radiator without like 1.5 inches cut off. So you gotta do what you gotta do. So you can see on the new water pump, there's a good, 64th amount of space that this had just rusted shut on this. You can see the imprint on the pulley. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4. These four bolts right here, and this is oriented about yay in terms of the block right there. Those are 13 millimeters we got to remove out. This is longer than these 3. These 2 are attached to your power steering. So I believe these are also 13 millimeters. We have to remove both of these 13 millimeters off the power steering. Power steering can swing out of the way, and when we reinstall this new one, they'll go right back into the same spot. We have to loosen one bolt up on the power steering that allows it to pivot where it is bolted into the intake. The power steering is a 9/16, and it looks like you need a ratchet to get to it because there's a piece of metal in front of it blocking a socket from going on it. So 9/16, and the rest appear to be 14 millimeter, not 13, 14 millimeter. Okay, so you're gonna need the long 1/2 inch socket, and you can do a short 14 millimeter. With a 1/2 inch socket, you can't see the 4th one, but there's 3, one here, one here, one here, one on the bottom side. That is roughly in that area. Those are 1/2 inch. And then your power steering, you have to remove 2 here and here. These should be a 14 millimeter. And you're going to want to loosen this one. Suppose you could remove it, but I think just loosening it will be. Upper hose connection point. The 2 back bolts for the power steering pump. We're going to have to remove the bracket for the power steering pump to get the water, at least on this 95. I believe this is the 91 to 95, and then in the 96, 97 years they changed it, and I think in the earlier Renix years it was different, so this might not be the same for your Jeep specifically. I don't believe any 2 Jeep Cherokees were actually made the same. I'm pretty sure they were just guessing each time they put one off the freaking line. But so gonna have to remove this bolt, these 2. There is the 3 bolts on the back, or 2 or 3 bolts on the back here that you use to release tension for when you're adjusting this. You're gonna have to take those out, I think. steering pump. Removing those 2 bolts. Those were 13 millimeters. Got them labeled here, power steering upper, power steering lower. I removed those 2, and then I removed the nut off the tensioning bolt, this part down here. If you have this style of power steering, you loosen and tighten the bolts. You loosen and tighten by a bolt down here. It attaches to this rail system you see here, and you can see the bolt itself. I removed the nut just so there's a little bit of extra play here, and I was able to slide it past. And now we have access to the bolt right here. That's a 13 millimeter, or sorry, that's a 14 millimeter. It's attached to the intake, so I just broke that loose. So now, just gonna take this bolt out. This bracket should slide out of the way. Then we'll have full access to the water pump, I hope. Alright, baby, that is a water pump, fully accessible. So we're gonna remove the lower hose, which should be an 8 millimeter from right here. I've got a Harbor Freight bucket ready to catch the water. Now that we have access, I'm going to put a clamp on that hose. And then the upper hose, which you can locate here, is a simple one of those sort of things. So just going to pinch that off. There shouldn't be much leakage out of that one, given it has not been ran in a couple days. And the water pump wasn't running that good when it was. So you want to be careful because you don't want to pinch it too hard and cause a leak unless you're planning on replacing it. And if you're planning on replacing it, probably shouldn't even pinch it off. So I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but one of the things that led me to believe that my water pump was going bad even before I had taken off the serpentine belt was that when I looked under the radiator cap, I could see small aluminum shavings, really fine stuff. That's all 4 bolts. That is all the bolts we removed. Power steering pump, water housing, and this is the fan, the 4 nuts on the fan. And for my Gen Z people, let's crank that soldier boy. Well, oh yeah, boys and girls, that is halfway there. So you can see remnants of the old gasket. Looks like they used quite a bit of gasket maker here, but just gonna flat knife, and then I'll use some alcohol to clean that up. But some vice clamps and a bumper. Give ourselves yeah, baby. So, got this to the proper tightness and orientation. There isn't really a way that I can torque it to its proper torque settings, but it's pretty darn tight, and it's at the right orientation, and I don't think I should attempt a full another 360 degrees to tighten it down. So if leaks start in the future, it's going to be a pain in the butt. But I don't think I want to try tightening it any further. So we're going to go with the provided gasket. Properly orient that it lines up. So make sure you actually line it up right. Get the right things in the right spots. So I just used some steel wool to clean up all of the bolts before reinstallation. I'm going to clean the face that mates up to the water pump. Well, it's dry and clean. So started hand threading all of them, then went star pattern. It's only 4, but you know, star pattern farthest, and then circle back around. Got them all nice and snug. I'm gonna go grab this torque stick, Google what the torque specs are. I think I Googled it was 20, but let me double check that. Internet says 17 foot-pounds for the housing bolts. That is really not that much, so start reinstalling our power steering pump. Never mind, I completely forgot we need to put the hose back on first. Oh no. Well, I think I popped the hose. We're gonna have to drain the whole radiator and replace the lower hose. Alright, well, I've got the lower and the upper replacement radiator hose from good old O'Reilly's. This isn't really a video on how to replace your radiator stuff, but it's pretty simple. You've got, at least I have, a similar 8mm hose belt tensioner on the radiator side for both the lower and the upper. I also have one on the thermostat housing from where the upper hose goes from the radiator to the thermostat housing. We've already removed the pump side from off of the water pump, so it's just 3 things to replace. So let's throw these on and continue with reinstallation. Threw a nice load of anti-seize so this thing will come off in the future. Also just buffed it down to clean off surface rust. Don't care if it's super pretty, just don't want it to be a problem in the future. Alright, so I got the pulley back on there, hand tight. We will torque it down once we have the serpentine belt reinstalled, because without that, you're pretty much just fighting against, you're torquing on a spinning thing. It's not quite worth the effort. Next, we reinstall the clutch fan. Got the old blades on the new clutch. If you have a unbroken fan shroud, these two have to go back in together. Oh, almost forgot the idler pulley. Internet says 35 foot-pounds. So once again, the reason I like doing this is I know that I have reinstalled every bolt I removed. Every bolt, and I did nuts here. Normally I don't always do nuts, but this is just super helpful for a project. I've never done this to this engine before, so knowing where to put bolts back, which bolts I put back where, and that I've got them all there, super helpful. So, highly recommend. All right, we have everything installed to the point where we should put the serpentine belt back on. So, got a fresh new serpentine belt. I'm just highly recommend taking a photo of the routing if you're not familiar with the routing of the serpentine belt on your vehicle. Often the difference between having an AC or being a 95 versus a 97 means a different routing. So just because one guy on the internet shows you a certain routing method doesn't mean that's the routing method that should be on your vehicle. Now, you do not want your fan coming off and going into your radiator for pretty obvious reasons that I don't think need to be explained in depth. But at the same time, it's a pretty shitty place to try and get a torque wrench into. And the torque specs that I've seen are 18 foot-pounds, which isn't a lot. So you pretty much are safe to do nice and snug. But I highly recommend that you make sure you've gotten all of them. And then you can finish tightening up. Oh yeah, and torque the water pump. That is something we can do. Also 13. Internet says 20 for the pulley. And the internet has never been wrong before. And like I said, 20 really isn't that much, all things considered. So you just want to make sure that you get all of them. And with those bolted in, we're just going to finish tightening up the belt. I like to do the 1 foot 1/4 inch. So I've got about 1 foot of travel between the pulley and the belt tensioner here. And so I want to get it to about 1/4 inch of tension. Right now I'm at about 1 inch of tension. So we'll tighten that up and then tighten the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 bolts you have to tighten on this model. Put the electric fan back in. So there's a lot of tools that you don't need but make life helpful. This is one that you do need and it makes life helpful. It's pretty much a no spill filler. It makes burping your car so much easier. So we've lost a lot of coolant. Some cars take, up to gallons and gallons. I got 4 gallons of extra coolant. So I'm hoping that'll be enough to replace what we have spilled / evacuated out of the vehicle. But before I crank up the old 4-liter. So I'm going to fill this up with some coolant. We're going to pull the plug from the inside, allowing the coolant to start filling the reservoir. Hope nothing leaks. And then as the engine's running, we're going to use this to just kind of help burp bubbles along the system, because this is where air bubbles are going to build up, if they do, or not if, but when. Okay, so I'm going to turn the car on. It's going to get real loud. You won't be able to hear me. But hopefully, this all doesn't just fly apart. But secondly, after that, I'm just going to keep doing this. We're just going to keep working those air bubbles out and see if we can get... But it's holding a good temperature on the thermostat, much lower than it was holding in the last couple of years, let alone recently. Not seeing any leaks at the moment. A little hard to tell with just the amount of coolant that was out and about, but as of right now, I'm going to call it good for the day. Project complete. Everything seems to be in the serpentine belt is running straight. It's not fraying on the edges, none of the signs that anything's misaligned. Everything seems to be on there tight. Like I said, I'll probably come back in a couple days, just check everything's still maintaining torque. Oh, and the nice thing about this, we can take this excess right here, and you can either put it back into the jug, or you can just walk it over, dump it into your reservoir.
Like a dagger?
But in terms of fixing this up, I went with the 13 mil. Now that we've got this all tightened up and it was running for a while, just tightened up those clutch fan bolts. Just because I can't get a torque stick in there, that's something I want to be conscious of, just making sure those stay on there. So I'm going to keep checking on that for the next week, or whenever I do the next burping, just to make sure those are nice and snug, not coming off. Everything else, not finding any leaks, seems to be running well. The temperature was looking really good, just sitting there idling. Honestly, it sounded really good. I mean, it still sounds like a shitbox, but it sounded really good compared to how it has been sounding. So definitely something that has been needed to occur. So I'm pretty pumped that it's over. I'm going to roll this thing out, pour some cat litter on the ground, and clean up all this leaked out coolant, because it's not good for the environment. And then I'll just dump it down the drain. Just kidding. That is a joke, EPA. A joke. But thanks for coming along. My name is Some Guy. I am inside my garage, but this is Some Guy Outside's channel. This is my clapped out 95 Cherokee. Thanks for coming along. Like, subscribe, comment down below if you have any helpful tips or tricks for this job, or things like that stuck pulley. The amount of work I had to go around to make a pulley puller work was a little substantial. So if you saw something in here that helped you out, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate the support. Remember, if some guy can do it,